Welcome back to the Nullified Take channel on YouTube, where we've got the TNT takes for you on Survivor 44, Episode 7. I'm your host, Chris, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Jake, all the way over from Arizona. And we're joined by the former champion or reigning champion of Survivor, Mr. Gabler himself. Gally Gabler's with us. How you doing, Gabler?
Hey, I'm doing great, Jake, Chris. Thanks so much for having me on. It's a pleasure.
We're so excited, and the way that we connected, for those that don't know, is through Australian Survivor, which I'm a big fan of as well. I'm situated in New Zealand, so kind of New Zealand and Australia being very close to each other. We spoke about Australian Survivor, and, you know, Gabler, I didn't know that you were into the international versions.
You know, I absolutely am. A little backstory about Australian Survivor for me is my wife and I, we got married. We moved down to Australia and we lived on the Gold Coast at Burleigh Heads, and she taught at Bond Uni, and I was just a trophy husband. But nice. We love Australia. We love New Zealand. And, you know, when Survivor, you know, my season finished, there's that gap between, you know, 43 and 44 starting. And somebody turned us on to Australian Survivor. And season 8, Heroes versus Villains, was outstanding. It was just such a great cast of crazy characters and so much fun. I loved it. So, yeah, I'm a huge fan of pretty much all things Survivor, but Australia has a special place for me. Yeah, that's right.
Well, we'll talk, you know, off air at some point. I'll try and hook you up with some of the other seasons as well, because there's some gems out there for Australian Survivor. And like I've mentioned to you, you know, I've got the Survivor South Africa cap on, the Survivor South Africa Return of the Outcast, which was their last season. Great franchise as well. So we'll have to get you onto some more international Survivor. But we're here to talk about Survivor 44, the season that is following your season. There's some rumors out there that 45 might have 90-minute episodes, Gabler. What do you think about that? Because Australian Survivor have had longer episodes for a long time, and we get to see a lot more of that camp dynamics.
Absolutely. And I've heard the rumor as well. In fact, Owen and I were texting about it today, and I think it's a great idea because there's so much that is left on the cutting room floor. And I mean, good stuff that is left on the cutting room floor that as a fan, I want to see more of that. And I think that longer episodes would be good. I mean, the people that like us and that are listening love Survivor. And while I love what the producers do by keeping the audience guessing and kind of even maybe blindsiding the audience once in a while, it would be nice. You could still do that, I think. I think we could have our cake and eat it too. I think we could have longer episodes, get a little bit more detail into the plot, the game dynamics, the camp dynamics, and still not lose any bit of the excitement. In fact, for our example, talking about Australian Survivor with the longer episodes, I think it actually helps. I think it actually helps make it more exciting.
Yeah, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but myself and Jake have said this quite a few times. You bring the amount of advantages in the game currently that Jeff brings into the game, which could be 10 different advantages at play at one stage in the game, and you've got 40-minute episodes. It really makes most of the episode revolve around the advantage and the twist, opposed to the tribe dynamics, where an Australian Survivor, that kind of flipped that on its head, where it was still idols were in the game, but there weren't really much other advantages, and you had the longer episode. So the advantage itself, the finding the idol, it didn't really take the majority of the episode. Gabler, what's your thoughts on all of these different twists? You played in a very fast-paced season yourself, so, you know, this seems like the evolution of Survivor has, you know, jumped a couple of steps ahead, and it's getting even faster and faster. So I don't know where we're going to end up.
It's getting really fast, and I think you need to pump the brakes. I mean, honestly, I think you do. I think, I'm enjoying 44. I'm enjoying it very much, but there's great characters there. And if you look at last night's episode, in the early part of the episode, there was a trend moving towards Danny. The word was out. Lauren was working her kind of angle on the side, and then and of course Franny was too, and everybody was kind of doing. So the game and the players were playing and things were happening, and then it was like all of a sudden shake it all up. We're gonna split it into basically one group that doesn't vote, the tribe, and it was almost like these great cast members and cool people were reacting to these events, which is what I think was Jeff's plan, but I would have loved to have seen how it played out. Would Danny have caught on? Would Danny have played his idol? Would something else have happened? I mean, it was like we were getting into this, and it was like this was building, and then it was like, a 90-degree right turn that way. And yeah, it was cool. It was fun. I liked how it went, and unlucky for Matt, lucky for Danny, it went that way. But I would have liked to see it play out organically too. So I think it's cool. It's a great experiment. I mean, so Survivor itself is a social experiment gone wild, and I love it. We all do. But I think, let the players play a little bit and then show a little bit more of it to the audience. And maybe if you're going to maybe even have a few less advantages and things, because then it really comes down to the gameplay of the players themselves.
I do want to say hello to people in the live, but you brought out such an interesting sort of point just now. And one of the things I'm really interested in is the fact that fake idols now has become a thing in Survivor. As a former player, as someone that potentially, who knows, you might be out there for Winners at War 2 or whatever happens in the future, how does this play into your psyche now as a player going back and knowing that there's a potential that someone tells you, hey, I want to be an ally with you, I've got this idol, but you don't even know if you can trust it. It looks real, it's got a note with it, but who knows if it's a real idol now in the game.
Well, it's a great point. I mean, even if you find an idol by yourself, are you really finding an idol that works? And at this point, that's a little weird, right? Because I mean, all the three of us and everybody commenting, assuming if anybody applies for the game, you could end up on the beach like me. And then if you find something, you're almost like, well, I got it. I think I might use it. I might not. I don't know how to vet that because there's really no way to do it. So I don't know. I mean, I will say this with those notes that they get. Although, see, it's tricky because they switched him with the fake idol in there. So it's tough, man. I don't know. It's anybody's guess is as good as mine because it kind of threw me for a loop. I'm actually pretty glad that our season didn't have all the fake idols because the only fake idols we had were fake idols that we were going to make.
Yes. Was there any fake idols made out there? Did anybody try and pull a wool over the head of the others?
I tried to make one. At first, and it just looked so ridiculously bad that I'm like, nope, I'm not even going to go there. It wasn't good enough. I mean, Josh tried to do that fake idol with some of the bag beads, and it was clever. And mine was looking kind of like that. Yeah. I'm like,
Did it fall apart when somebody tried to grab it?
Yeah, it fall apart. And I'm like, I better not. So
it gives you new respect for your man, right? He should have been a game changer because he's the one who brought fake idols into the game.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I want to say hello to a few people here in the live. Andre Lee, welcome back to the live. We've got Tom McPherson also in the live saying that he's just finishing up on the latest episode and we'll jump in towards the end of the live. Tom is also over in Australia, Melbourne. Jay saying it's the Ali Gabler. Johnny Talks Sport is saying, I wish they'd bring Survivor New Zealand back. I agree. We should definitely resurrect that as well. He's really enjoying Survivor AU over US at the moment. There's a lot of back and forth. I think there's a lot of fans for Survivor AU at the moment. I think both have got its strengths and its weaknesses, but there's not a podcast that will go into that. We'll talk about the actual episode. Christian Gall says, bring back the 39 days. How did you feel about 26 days, 39 days? At the end of the day, it's still a tough game to win. You still got to beat everybody out in there. But, I mean, fans constantly bring this up, Mike.
It's true. So, the difference is, like, they do the 26-day game and they give you no food. So, if I would like to see them extend it and then maybe they give you a bag of rice for the first week or two, and then it goes to hungry times again because, on Australian Survivor, I know they gave them beans and rice, not a lot. I mean, nobody's gaining weight on Survivor, period,
No.
right? But, I mean, I lost 35 pounds. I was 200 pounds going into the game, and in 26 days, when I stepped on the scale and I came out, I was 166 pounds. So, I mean, 34 pounds came off of me, and I was a little bit, maybe I had 10 pounds to give going in, but I ate, when your body eats all its fat, then it starts eating your muscle. And then if you're really that hungry long enough, it starts to pull from your joints and your spinal column because it's all fat. And, when I got out of the game, I was a half an inch shorter. And I was just super, super skinny. I mean, I was skinnier than I was in a junior in high school when I got out of the game.
Wow.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest body transformations I've seen on Survivor was Russell Hantz when he played Samoa and then went into Heroes versus Villains, and he looked like a different person. Can you imagine playing the game back to back, Mike? Like, what would that have felt like, going through this and then having to be back out there immediately afterwards?
Mentally, I think it would be an advantage because you're already in the zone. You're looking at two people walk together. You're like, what are they doing? What are they doing? You're way into that. Or if somebody says like, how are you? You're like, I'm fine. What do they mean by how am I? Why are they asking? You're really into that coming out of the game. But physically, that would be unbelievable. It'd be like doing a marathon and then the next day doing another one. It would just really would be taxing because it took me, when I got back out of the game, I came home and I went to my daughter's graduation. Let me see if I can find a picture of that real quick because I looked like a Civil War reenactor, man. I mean, it was like crazy. Yeah, this is me this is me after I've been out of the game for a week. Okay, let's see if I can show that there.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean,
You can
just
totally
look at my
tell.
face even, right? It's like I'm just like super, super skinny. And so that was kind of crazy. But I mean, it's so much fun though. I mean, if you're listening to this and you even think you want to do it, put together your video, send it in. And at the most, like when I was doing mine, I'd always said that before I turned 50, I was going to apply for Survivor. So I was like 49 and 10 months. My wife's like, all right, it's about time. So I got up one day early, got my phone and my GoPro, went and put together kind of a funny video as a fan for my friends and family to basically have a good laugh at. And I sent it in, and holy smokes, they call me back. And the rest is kind of history. But I would encourage any fan listening that thinks you want to do this, give it a shot. You just never know, man.
Yeah. Listen, I'm so glad you applied. I'm so glad you went out there because you were one of the biggest characters we've had on Survivor in a while. And we've had some big characters in recent seasons. None so bigger than this season, Carolyn, coming into this season. She's been fun to watch. I'm going to be honest. I was a slow burner on her. The first episode, I was like, I don't know if I'm all in. She isn't putting one coherent sentence together for me. But episode 2 onwards, I've been all on the Carolyn train. What's your thoughts about some of these characters? You mentioned earlier that you're really enjoying the characters this season, even though the twists are there. Carolyn obviously being the biggest one, but there's a few of them.
Carolyn's been great. I mean, she's played a remarkably solid game. She hasn't told people, like I thought when she got her idol, she was going to spill the beans, or she's played a very good game. Her threat level is like non-existent. They're not even looking at her as a threat. But when her confessionals, you can see the gears are turning up there. She's playing. And I think the biggest thing is Carolyn at this point in her life knows who Carolyn is. And she is probably the best version of her that's ever been around yet. And she's just, you can't help but love her. She's like this really fun, crazy character. And, from what I can tell, that's kind of her. I mean, she's not putting any, that's Carolyn that we're getting. And she's a lot smarter than people give her credit for. She has some odd mannerisms and things that I think give, like on the last episode before this week, remember she was like, Josh does not have an idol. He's got a cheesy fake idol. Yam pulled on the beads and they knew it wasn't. She said it to everybody at the Mergatory feast. And they were like, they heard her and they go, okay, well, anyways, if Josh has an idol, and they kind of went like literally right back to it. And, she's looking around like, what are they doing? And I'm sure in the game, it's frustrating her at this point, but I hope that she continues to play her role because she's very smart. She's got herself an idol, and she's made it to the merge. And if she can just kind of stay in there and navigate, you never know. She gets to final three, anything's on.
I'll tell you why I've got hope for Carolyn. Carolyn is someone that has been ingrained on the Survivor superfan community for a very long time. She's watched many seasons. She's played online Survivor games. I think she's a sleeper. She gets to the final. She can turn it around and tell people about her game at that point, and they would be shocked and amazed, Jake, at all the things she's been doing behind the scenes that probably the rest of the cast have not seen. We're in on the secret because, we're getting to see it from an edit perspective, right, Jake?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love Carolyn, and I think that she is, as Gabler said at the feast, one big thing is like you would expect Carolyn when they just totally blew past her, like for her to be like, guys, what are you saying? Like, but she just like stayed cool. She's like, I am extremely upset right now, but I'm just gonna. And
we even saw this episode, by the way. We even saw this episode because Carolyn wanted to protect Yam Yam so badly, but she didn't do anything outside of what the rest of the people there would have perceived as her trying to overreach a little bit. And there's that delicate balance about when do you go out on a limb, Gabler, to defend a potential ally in the game, and how does that not burn your own game? And I think she's got that balance right now.
She's balancing it well, and I like Jake's point. I think where she had the wherewithal to pause. I mean, it must have been inside of her. She must have been like, did you guys just hear me? I mean, she could have caused a scene and really brought that attention down. And maybe that would have not, people would have looked at her like, it may not have gone well for her. Instead, she's like, I gave the information. They didn't take it. They'll be to their own, to their own detriment. They missed that information, and she's probably learning that it's hard for her to be taken seriously. But what I'm hoping she does is she allows that facade to stay up and get deeper into the game while she has the knowledge. And then at some point when she reveals, I've been in this game from the beginning. I've had this from the beginning. I did this, and all this, and you didn't listen to me here. You did listen to me here. I did this. She's going to have a story to tell. And if she's got the chops to tell the story, then, I mean, she could be a very dangerous person to sit next to.
Yeah. It's all about telling that story at the end. I mean, we saw it in your season when you went up in the end and you had a coherent story from beginning to end that people wanted to vote for. We even saw it in Australian Survivor. We won't spoil who won that season, but we had two players there that just didn't have the same story as the player who ended up being able to put it all together. And Carolyn has got that. She's definitely got the makings of that. You brought up a very interesting point, Gabler, where you said that Carolyn, at this stage in her life, she knows who she is. She's got that strength of not trying to prove or find herself out on the island. Yes. And I look at Matt, and I feel like Matt is the exact opposite almost coming into this season, because his journey was about discovering himself and discovering who he is now without his ex, obviously finding new love out there. And we saw that sort of not play out too well for them. How important is it, to go out there and be very confident in your own ability and not have this sort of weighing on you going into the game?
I mean, just speaking for myself, being an older player, the 51-year-old Gabler versus the 21-year-old Gabler, maybe I would have won a challenge or two more, maybe, but I would have not played as well as Sammy or anyone else because I was a crazy wingnut and at that age. And I think that, there's pros and cons to every person on the beach, and what the winners always find a way to maximize their pros and minimize their cons. And for me, knowing myself very well at 51 when I was in the game, and Carolyn right now at her age, because she's gone through all kinds of things. She's had a personal struggle, a journey, a very difficult journey that she's now overcome. She's now a drug counselor. She went through her own addiction issues and stuff, and she's come out the other side. You don't go through that without incredible internal personal growth. And she did all of that. So she has been tested and forged in fire, if you will. And she's someone that knows herself. She's tougher than than you think she is, and she's smarter than she may come off as being. And that gives me a lot of. I mean, she's one I'm watching. She's on my list. I'm playing in a Survivor League myself this year.
Yeah.
And she's one of my top 3 to go.
Yeah, well, we've got our other co-host, Kahuna, who I normally do my power rankings with in the live, and he's saying Carolyn's going to get that bag, which is bag in a Minnesota accent.
Yeah, that's right.
Kahuna's got Carolyn in his team. I think he made the right choice, if I remember correctly, to pick her. So he's looking pretty. He's sitting pretty at the moment. Talking about Jake, the twist, Gabler brought up a little bit earlier on that we have early on in this episode, Matt putting 2 and 2 together and finding out that he possibly has a fake idol in the game. Do you feel like this was the moment Jeff was waiting for the fake idol to play out in such a way where finally a player catches on to them, may have a fake idol, so they now know who potentially does have the idol? Did you like seeing it play out on the screen?
Yeah, I did. I thought it was interesting. I'm now thinking like maybe that was kind of a trick, like a trap from production. Like the thought is to put it back in the cage with just the fake, but then that makes it easier for people to then later find out that it is fake when they talk to everybody else and they find out, oh yeah, when I found it in the cage, there were 2 idols in there. Yes. One was fake. And so I forget, it was Matthew. Unfortunately, he got medevaced.
Oh, yeah.
He put it back in the jungle. He didn't put it back in the cage. So it makes you like, you can't always trust what production is leading you to do. But this was totally an awesome moment for this, when like I should have known this was going to happen, where like people talk, they talk about what happened. And I think it's sad because I was like, man, like it's looking up for Matt. He lost his 2 votes.
Sniffed it out.
He's finally sniffing out, that his idol's
it
fake.
was a really shrewd deduction that he did coming up with that. He put that together quickly.
Yeah.
He did make a couple of other mistakes. I think he could have done a better job of petitioning. He almost when he was doing his last speech at tribal council, almost he was, to me, on the audience listening, it was like, I came out here, I wanted to grow, I wanted to test myself and all this stuff, and I did that. And I've grown a lot as a person, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity. It was almost like, thanks, and it's okay if you let me go now.
Yeah.
Versus, hey, I came out here to do these things. I have so much more to do. I have a lot of stuff. Hey, there's this fake idol that I got that I was going to do. And, that I mean, whatever. I'm just making this up right now. But maybe if he would have kind of moved that in such a way, it could have possibly saved him. I don't know.
Yeah.
But,
should he publicly have distanced himself from the Soka tribe? Because that seemed like that Soka alliance coming into the merge. That was what Brandon and Lauren and Jamie was really afraid of. By him maybe saying something like, listen, I got duped at tribe. I mean, he's got nothing to lose. He's playing with house money.
Right.
I got
exactly.
duped,
Chris, right.
and Danny's got the actual idol. He duped me. I'm not with him. Maybe that saves him in that spot where they're like, okay, well, he's a solid number we can pull in.
Can you imagine, right? I mean, lift time machine back and that happens. I mean, if he would have had a different pitch to the audience, to the jury, not the jury, to his tribe mates around him, and also the people that were just watching, who knows what could have happened then? Because somebody also on the other bench, I mean, it's not impossible, but they could have played something for him too. You never know how it could go, but he just kind of did a swan song almost, and he was playing great. He really was. He really impressed me, to Jake's point, when he put all that together like that. He's clearly a smart guy. He's a very smart guy. He was a fun player to watch. I think, though, with him going out, as much as Franny really enjoyed him being there, and they were having their own connection, I think this is probably the best thing that's happened for Franny's game, because it had a huge target on them. And by her staying away, that happening, I think it actually really put Franny in a power position right now, because she's smart as a whip too. And I think,
and physically capable. Like, you can easily forget how capable she is physically. She won the immunity.
She killed it.
Too. She has. She's crushing it now. That's her second immunity win, right?
I believe it's her first official immunity win, but
by herself.
She was by herself, but she was very impressive in the Earn the Merge, where I saw her run up that ramp on her own. That's when I first took note. I'm like, now I get it. Now I get why she was so good in the Soka tribe from the start. It was a very strong tribe that had Franny in it. And there were some people that were critical at the time when Claire got voted out. But my opinion is that if you don't play, I'm a fan. If I go out there, I would. And listen, there's nothing against Claire. I'm sure she is so disappointed about it, right? But I mean, I would really, really hate to go out there and not participate. And if you had to choose between Claire and Franny, and you had to choose between Heidi, I mean, Heidi was Danny's right-hand person. It was always going to be Claire.
I mean, think about this, and I know Claire was altruistically doing what she thought was best for the tribe, and sacrificing her personal ambition to be in the challenges to do it. That's what she was thinking. But from being in those challenges on a tribe, in the trenches, sweating, bleeding, fighting together, you do not want to not have those bonds with people out there. And if you sit out one challenge, okay, maybe. I would never sit out two, let alone three. And that definitely was probably her demise, because she was smart, playing a good game, and I wish she would have. I mean, it's hard to say. It's a game of attrition, so you're going to lose people every week no matter what, and they're all pretty cool. But that was definitely
6-person tribe. There's no place to hide in a 6-player tribe. Like, you've got to show up.
You got to show up, and then to have that experience. Like, I haven't been in a team sport in about 30 years, and to be on a team sport again, I forgot how much fun that was. I mean, when we got together, even when we were. We had our rifts inside Baca, right? Me and Ellie. There was, Ellie and Janine. There was me and Sammy, Owen in the middle somewhere. When we would get together on that challenge field. And by the way, when you come out of the jungle and you see for the first time, because you don't see it ahead of time, you walk out of the jungle and it's like, there it is. Yeah. It's as big as a football field and tall. They are big. And Jeff explains it to you one time, real quickly, and gives you 3 minutes with your team. And it's like, okay, Jake, you're going to climb that rope wall ladder. And then Chris, you're going to throw the puzzle pieces up. And then I'm going to do the puzzle and swing it with a vine or whatever. So and it's really critical because the teams are always pretty well balanced. The tribes are always pretty well balanced. But the losing tribes, as evidenced by Baca's first loss, was we put the wrong people in the wrong spots. We could have been more competitive in that challenge. But at the last minute, we decided we were going to put Janine under the log. We were going to and then it was going to be me and Owen at the end doing the table. And at the last minute, we decided to flip in, put Sammy in there. And me and Sammy were trying to figure it out. And it just the chemistry wasn't right. And we lost a tribe member on the first elimination. And then we got it quick, real straight, because it was painful. And then we got our ducks in a row, and we didn't lose again after that. But even though we were rifting, I tell you, when you got in the trenches and you're battling with each for immunity or reward with your tribe mates, I mean, Ellie was such a warrior in those challenges. I mean, she was our little field marshal on the field. Where I remember there was one where we were picking up these big, heavy boxes, and we had like, okay, you're going to pick it up, hand it to Gabler. Gabler's going to push it up and hand it to Sammy, and we're going to put it to the top rail because it's really heavy and high. I turned around one time, and Ellie had picked up like an ant, like 10 times her body weight, picks up this giant box and just looks at me and is like, move. And just was barreling by. But those types of experiences. And we laughed about it back at camp. We told all of our stories and stuff. And there's no doubt. I mean, we're friends to this day.
You bond over that, basically. And it's like kind of almost like going to war with these people, And it's like now you have this one person who's not been in there. The chemistry hasn't been built. You don't know where you can put them in the challenge. There's no trust. For the fans that were critical of that move, I think they need to really, look at that and say, if you're out there, you would make the right move for yourself every single time. And how can you get to the merge? How can you keep your numbers strong and have some sort of an advantage if you get to the merge? You mentioned Ellie. Obviously, that still hurts. Ellie was like a winner pick for me in that season, and she ended up going early. Obviously, you got one over her, and good on you, because that's what got you the win.
She might have been the winner had I had an alligator to her, so she was probably going. She was dangerous.
She was dangerous. I definitely saw that. And, it's interesting. I don't know if you follow The Challenge at all, but it's a reality competitive TV show where some survivors have gone and played on it. They do physical challenges to get to the end. Danny McRae is in the current season, and I'm loving what him and Sarah Lucina are doing on that season. It's rumored. It's only rumored, so we're talking about speculation here, that Cassidy from your season might be on the next season.
I've heard the same thing. I don't know for sure, but I've heard the same thing. I haven't, I know Ben Drybergen has been on the challenge.
Big Ben fan, the Ben Bombs.
Big Ben, me too. And he lives in Idaho with me here. And we went to dinner, my wife and his wife, and we went to dinner, I don't know, a month or two ago. Just a great guy. I mean, we had some laughs. His wife's awesome. We drank a few beers and had some fun. It was cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, I love what Ben brought to the show. I am also seeing a bit more of that fire that got Ben the first win, because I feel like in Winners of War, we didn't see the same Ben out there compared to the season that he won. But in this current season of the Challenge World Championships that's currently airing with Sarah and Danny, it looks like they're going head to head, which is a shame to see the survivors going after each other. But, I love what he brings to the show. So that's awesome. I've seen some photos where you've hung out with him. So that's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And I hope Cassidy's on it, because she'll be fun to watch. She is a fierce competitor. And I think it'll make some great television and a lot of cool adventures. So fingers crossed, Cass is on the next one.
Yeah, so Cass and Chris Underwood for Survivor as well. So former winner is also being rumored to be on there. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes after the Age of Extinction, where a lot of people probably gave him some flack online. I think he's going to go out there with a chip on his shoulder. So it could be very exciting to see how he does. And by the way, as a winner, while I'm on the topic, I always say to myself, like, if I was to go out there and play the game and I won, like, it does obviously hurt when fans don't see your win as one of the top 5. But you got the win. That's cemented. That's something.
Bro,
that
I won that win.
Away.
I had 0 votes against me. I got 7 out of 8 votes at the end.
Yes.
At the end. Say whatever you want. You can see whatever you want, not see whatever you want. Scoreboard, baby. That's all I got to say. I mean, it doesn't get much cleaner than that. And that's only happened. I'm only the 3rd person in Survivor history to be that close to a perfect game. So, I mean, that was a good. Whatever you want to say, you can say. But
second winner over 50.
Talk is cheap, takes money to buy whiskey. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, you were the second winner over 50, right? If that's correct.
I am. I'm the second oldest in Survivor history. Yes.
Yeah, there you go. So and that's the thing. I wasn't specifically thinking of your win. I was thinking about, when you get players like Michelle Fitzgerald coming back, being down on herself because of some of the fan reception. It was always one of those things where I feel like you can never Survivor fans, myself and Jake spoke about this just before we went onto the podcast. We're kind of like Star Wars fans. Like, you can never satisfy them. Like, it's just impossible.
It's true. I mean, just say even if I got 8 out of 8 and it was a perfect game, right? It's like, but what you have to understand in the game is, you have to manage your threat level as well when you're going through the game, because the Survivor's not on season 1 or 2. It's on season 43 in the United States. It's on season 8, now 9 in Australia. People know how to play the game. And when people perceive a threat, you are going to be targeted. And it's very challenging to do the threat level management, which is why I had that alligator strategy. Because just like a crocodile down under or an alligator here, they sit and wait and they're patient. Like, I waited 10 days to throw out Ellie's name at that merge feast. I waited till the perfect moment to pull the pin and roll that grenade out, and took another bite of sandwich and a sip of beer and just watch the fireworks take place. And I think that, threat management is everything in Survivor. And if you look at Jesse, who is a total savage, he was an awesome player. He was doing behind the scenes. I actually think Lauren this season is playing a very Jesse-like game. And we can talk about that more later. But I think Jesse played a phenomenal game, but he wasn't great at challenges. And after he did that huge, or he led that big move against Cody, when that happened, he basically put himself in a bend position where he had to win out to the end, because if he missed one of those, he's gone. And I remember at the very end of the game when I was, talking to the jury, and I don't think this made the edit, but Carla was like, Gabler, why was your game better than mine? Because she played a phenomenal game too. Carla had a terrific game. And I looked her square in the eye and I go, easy. When we got to final 5, you had one way to get to 3 and I had 2. And that was the truth. I could have gone 2 different ways. I had alliances to go 2 different ways. And I think that the amount of relationships you have and the more relationships you have, the more information you will get passed through you and the better decisions you can make for yourself in your own game. And that allows you to pivot if somebody that you were planning on voting out suddenly wins immunity, or something happens, or there's a twist in the game you weren't prepared for. You have to be able to have a backup plan to the backup plan to the backup plan, and you have to have real relationships that are going to tell you things and tip you off. So that is part of the mastery, and I think that if we have longer episodes, more of that will be seen. So it may not be enough because, just like you said, Survivor fans are like Star Wars fans, and everybody's going to want to see everything. But I think it'll be a lot more intriguing as well.
Yeah, definitely. You brought up a lot there. I mean, one of the interesting questions that Jay here has got, you mentioned that Jesse reminds you a little bit of Lauren this season, and definitely want to dive into that. But at the same time as maybe diving into that, we've got Jay asking if Carolyn is like Cody. I feel like maybe Cody is the big character, but Cody was that move with Jesse and Cody at that point as well. Like you said, when he took him out, it kind of had to be done for Jesse to get to the end because Cody was such a likable character, right? But at that point, he became the biggest threat in the game. Cody seemed to have a bit more social capital, I would say, at this stage in the game than what Carolyn probably has, even though they're both very big personalities.
Agreed. Cody was a much more I don't want to say this in a derogatory way towards Carolyn, but Cody was more sophisticated, it seems. Like he was playing Cody is
a salesman.
Cool.
He's a salesman.
He's a salesman. He's cool. He's like one of the coolest people I've ever met. Like cool. Carolyn's like wild. So they're different. They're very different. Cody was very thoughtful, he was a quieter person. He wasn't as loud or revealing as Carolyn is. And, so Cody didn't talk a lot. When Cody talked, he had something to say. I'll say that much. When Cody talked, he had something to say. And similar to Jesse, where Carolyn, she's so in touch with her emotional side that she's, she sees a sunrise and she'll be, like there's a tear coming down her cheek, or, wants to give you a big hug or something. I mean, which is why we love her. It's great. Every person is different, but I think they're very different. I see them as very different people. But great question, Jay.
Yeah, and he also brings up Lauren saying, isn't Carson potentially closer to Jesse than Lauren? Lauren's been very under-edited at this stage in the show. Why are you sort of making that comparison?
Because, Carson's kind of another great question. Carson, to me, he's very good at challenges. He's very physically fit. Lauren, has struggled a little bit more in challenges. Jesse struggled in challenges. So I think there's a similarity right there between Jesse and Lauren. Now, at the same time, Jesse and Lauren, extremely good game players. Lauren, every time Lauren says something, I almost say, wow, watch her, right? Like she's a smart player. And while she's not the most physical player, and maybe she will be later, maybe there's some challenge that she's going to rise up. And that's another great thing that I love about Survivor.
Equalizes, right?
You never know who is going to come up and pull out a win and in dramatic fashion. So maybe that's to come later with Lauren. But so far, X many episodes in now, she does not look like a challenge threat in any way. And Jesse wasn't either. And she's compensating for that by being extremely well connected, and no one is writing down her name either. No one is even targeting her, despite her not as big of performances on the challenge field. No, people like her, and she's smart, and that's Jesse, because Jesse was a quieter player. we weren't even looking at Jesse super seriously until I joined Ride or Die. When I joined Ride or Die with Cody, I thought Jesse was like my perception at the time was like he's Cody's sidekick, kind of. And really, Cody was either equal or Jesse was running it. You don't know because they were really, really in there together. And but once I got in Ride or Die, I knew that. But I wouldn't have probably discovered that until very, very late in the game had it not been a part of Ride or Die, because Jesse played his cards close to his vest. And it wasn't until I didn't realize everybody he was talking with either until I got into a little bit deeper in the game. And Jesse was like that guy that you didn't worry about him. He had a magic calming effect on people. And that's why everybody was handing him literally Dwight giving him his idol, Janine's idol, with my bead on it and everything, all that stuff. So I think Lauren's playing a little bit of that game. Carson is, Carson, he's smart, and he's very strategic like Jesse, but he's also, I think, a challenge threat. I think he is somebody that when the challenge is good, he's going to win one. I think I would be shocked if Carson does not win a single individual immunity this season. He's
jacked.
He's jacked, dude. He's great.
Yeah. He reminds me, Carson, I've said it a few times on the podcast, he reminds me of Mike Turner, who we had on a couple of episodes ago. He was on the podcast as well, such a great guy. And the reason I say that is from a social aspect. Mike Turner was so good at creating so many connections with so many different people across the board on both sides of the aisle when it comes to the alliances.
Yes.
The one fear I have for him is he may play this great game, but he's going to have to cut people to get to the end. And I'm hoping, because it's such a delicate balance between creating these great social connections where you're everybody's little brother, almost like Mike Turner was everybody's older brother, and then you've got to try and ask for the vote at the end where people might have hurt feelings towards you as well, which is a delicate balance, right? Yeah, you go ahead.
I mean, it very much is. I mean, Oscar Wilde once said, a good friend will stab you in the front. And I want to be that good friend that'll stab you in the front. And I think that whenever I would take people out and was a part of, blindsides or, vote outs, with few exceptions, my hands were pretty clean. And people were, it was understood. Really, aside from Ellie that flamed me out at tribal council when she was leaving, like that's what you get for trusting Gabler. Aside from that, but she was not on the jury. She was on her way. So I was able to kind of be a little more clumsy at that vote off, because if it succeeded, I wouldn't have to worry about that on the jury. But Carson's going to have to do that. And if he's not able to vote people out, like if he's the one that everybody blames for each vote out, he may get to the end, but it'll be a tough one for him. So there is a fine line between your threat management and your likability management too, because you've got to do a lot of different things at the same time during Survivor, and you're also doing it with malnourished, half a brain. You're sleep deprived. You're all these different things. So even what you're saying right now, like I would say to myself sometimes, like if I would just talk to Chris and I'm going to see Jake, I'm like, did I just tell all that to Jake, or did I say that to Chris? I mean, you would get confused, and it's so much going on. You're 2-3 hours of sleep. You're eating tiny calories and you're starving. You're not like right now.
Yeah, it's funny. I love that scene where Carson said he read this book on deception and how to be able to tell when somebody's lying to them, and then he still gets it wrong early on. It just shows you it's different when you're out there. I wanted to say hello to Flynn Masters, fellow YouTube content creator here on YouTube, saying now getting on the 44 train for amazing guests. And I've got someone asking if Owen's up next. Well, I'll reach out to Owen. I know Owen has done a few podcasts before. Maybe he will want to come on and talk.
Owen's terrific. Owen is terrific. In fact, Owen and his beautiful fiance, Sammy, different from Sammy on the show, they're coming out to visit me here in Idaho in 2 months. I can't wait to see my friend. I haven't seen him since the island, and I cannot wait to see him.
That's so awesome. I love the fact that you're hanging out with all of these Survivor players afterwards, and just the family sort of thing that it creates around all former players. I really love seeing it. Selfishly, I want there to be a little bit of a rivalry between the old school and new school players, and we get to see old school versus new school. And I don't know which season we play, the 26 days versus the 39 days. Let's just get the record straight. I think it could be for a really good spicy season.
I love it. I think it's a great idea.
Well, we'll put it out there for Jeff for his podcast. I'll send him a message. Hopefully it gets read. All right, moving on. I did want to talk a little bit about Franny and her big decision this specific episode. We have to touch on it. Obviously, they have these two tribes that are getting split up. They go up against each other for immunity. There is also some peanut butter and jelly available for everyone as a side note. But, Franny has this decision to make because she's the last person going up against Brandon. She's already safe. Matt is on the other tribe. Gabler, why do you think Franny pushed so hard to win in this spot? A lot of people online, they're thinking, we're sitting here in the comfort of our own home. We've got a lot of time to think about it. Maybe it is that island brain, like you mentioned. But for some other reason, she still pushes ahead and wins immunity for her tribe, putting Matt in danger in this spot. And a lot of people have been critical of that.
Right, because she could have won individual immunity for herself and through the challenge. But the reason is real simple. She's a champion. And, when you get in the ring to fight, like I was a champion boxer back in college, and you're not born with a face like this. You got to get punched a lot. But so, I think she gets in there and the eye of the tiger, she's competing. She's a fierce competitor. She's a Survivor fan. To win an individual immunity and throw it away, no way, dude. I don't care. I'm not throwing it away. I would never throw it. I don't care. If I have an opportunity to put on that necklace and there's no – you may not get it again. And I'm not – to keep someone in the game that I think would have not helped her necessarily, because we talked about that, it puts a bigger target on her. But even if she did want to keep him, even if it was important to keep her, you're not throwing that challenge. I mean, that's like you're not taking that dive. I'm not taking that dive. And Franny's not taking that dive either, apparently, which is awesome because I respect her for it. I actually respect her a lot for that, because no one gives you anything on Survivor. And she had an opportunity to win that necklace by herself, and she took it. And I salute her for it. And I do not begrudge her one bit. I think that is that's what a champion does, and she's a champion.
Yeah, Matt clearly doesn't hold any grudge either. On his way out, he was like, "I'm proud of you for winning, Franny." I know that was so cute. I love. He
understands. He understands because what's cool about this era of Survivor is everyone's a really big fan. I mean, these are true fans on here, and you get the opportunity to get out there. You want to do your best for yourself and for your friends and family, but you want to prove it to yourself that you can do that. And it blew my mind when I won one of those things. It was just incredible. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it was an impressive performance as well. I believe, who was it that you went up against in the end? Was it Cody?
Cody, right?
Yeah.
Cowboy Cody, man.
Yeah,
hold on tight. And we both broke the record. The record before we got out there was 25 minutes. In about 45 minutes is when Cowboy Cody finally bucked off his Bronco, and I got to hang on a little bit there. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, we should have a side by side of you and Christian Nubicki with that section. I feel like it was a very similar kind of performance.
Let's bring it on. That's right. That's right, man. Hey.
Also, thinking about this specific moment, Matt ends up on this tribe. He didn't take his bag with him. Like, you normally think you're going to go back to camp. Does this evolve the game now, you think, in the future, where people will start thinking about taking that bag to challenges? And should you be suspicious of someone that does take their bag to a challenge now in the future? Like, I feel like there's so many levels to this.
I'll tell you, yes, the answer, you would think that you're going to now bring your bag to those challenges. But what you don't see on as a fan is the island that you're living on is about a 45-minute boat ride from the island that you do the challenges on. And then you do another 45-minute boat ride back. You're totally winded. You're starving. You're exhausted. And everything that you bring with you is probably going to get wet because the boats, there's waves going, and you got to beat the surf. You have to time the surf, which nobody can do. I've tried to do it every night. I missed it every single night. In fact, I ended up wearing just my underwear only and carrying everything else as I ran onto the boat because I kept getting my pants and my shoes all wet, and they don't dry out there. You're in the jungle. So I think as much as people want to bring all their stuff, and maybe they might, I don't know that they will, because you may bring a small bag with a few more things, but I would bring only my competition stuff in my bag. And that was it, because it's a lot of effort to pack up your whole camp every time, every single day. Because on the new era of Survivor, 26 days, there's something every single day. There's no every other day. It's every single day you're doing something. So you have to pack up your camp every day, which would be a ton of stuff. And then you got to carry your torch. You got to walk up and down the beach a few times so that the drones and all that stuff get the right shots in. And that's a ton of effort you're talking about for something that may or may not happen. I don't know that I'd bring all my stuff. I think I'd bring a select few things, and that's it.
Yeah. An interesting thing that was brought up with talking to Omar on the podcast, actually, he mentioned to us that the die that you've got in the game, to try and stay in the game, you can actually, you've got it. So you got to take it home. That's awesome.
That's what it looks like, everybody.
That's really cool.
That is so cool. Yeah.
So that's your shot in the dark right there.
Yeah.
And that's what it looks like. And that's about how big it is. And because I was the last one out, I got back to Ponderosa at what do you guys call it? Jury Villa. I call it
Jury Villa. Yeah.
Jury Villa at midnight. We basically partied till 4 a.m. Got up the next day, had breakfast, and we flew out about 4 p.m. that night. So it was quick. And somehow I got to escape with a couple cool little knickknacks.
That's so cool.
They were originally supposed to take that from you.
I've got mine, and I know that's unusual. So I think
they're not. I don't think they'll come after it now.
Jeff's not watching this podcast, so you should be fine.
Yeah,
that's right. If you do, it's come and take it.
Come and take it, yeah. Now, Gabler, I wanted to ask about that. Omar said that you could trade it in the game to someone else in their season. Could you do that on your season as well? Could you use it as a bargaining tool?
You can do that. While we're talking about the shot in the dark, there's something pretty funny that went down out there that was known. So, I had a very close relationship with Sammy, right? And Sammy played his shot in the dark on my season. Mm-hmm. So we were out there, and me and him early on, we were going to watch each other's back, and we talked about that. And, we had a code word, which was coyote. And if one of us said coyote to the other one, it meant something changed. The votes are going on you, play your shot in the dark. And I came back from one of my confessionals, and all of a sudden it was like we're getting shut down, locked down, where you can't talk to anybody until you get to tribal council. And I was like, okay, I don't know. And they're like, okay, it's locking down, which means no more talking, no more gameplay, nothing. I remember just looking up, I was walking past Sammy, and I'm like, good luck tonight, Coyote. And I just kept walking. And he was like, looked at me, and I did not look at him again. He was even tapping me a couple times during tribal council, and I'm like looking straight ahead. So he was tipped off a little bit. He wasn't for sure, but I did use the code word. And if that would have hit, if he would have got that could have shaken things up pretty interestingly. And I was getting my plan B together with that, what was going to happen if it hit, but it didn't. And unfortunately, Sammy had to go home.
Wow. Yeah. I really enjoyed Sammy that season as well. At one point, I actually thought he had a chance. It's just such a fun character.
Terrific guy.
But it's great insights from behind the scenes. There's one big thing about this episode we haven't spoken about yet, and this is the new advantage that is put in the game. It's in the cage. They have to go run around. Very fun scene with them looking for keys. Lauren ultimately gets the advantage, which is a control of vote advantage. And I found it very interesting because not only did she get to choose who she wanted to vote for, but she had to publicly announce who that person needed to vote for. What did you think of this advantage? Do you think that Lauren did the best that she could with it in the way that this sort of played out? Obviously, it ultimately doesn't work. Are you high or low on this?
So wasn't it Heidi that got it?
Heidi. Sorry, Heidi.
Okay. Just check it. So, yeah. So I liked it. It was interesting. It was kind of cool. I thought it was pretty interesting. I thought Heidi played it well. She just didn't have the numbers right from the other tribe. And, she voted for Yam to try to do a solid for Franny because they're tight, right? It was interesting the way she phrased it too. She's like, I have the power to control this. I'm going to do this. And I'm going to do, because everything you say and do has 10 different meanings. And you have to kind of look at that and even if it's not something you're implying, it may be perceived that way. So I don't know how it's going to work out for her next week. We'll see, because
I feel like it blew up her game because she was sort of sitting behind the scenes quite a bit and she was playing a very subtle game. But now she's forced her hand. And Lauren, so I got it confused. Lauren's the person she played it on. Yeah. Lauren now will feel a certain type of way after this, right? Because
exactly. I think you made a terrific point, Chris, that she came out of the shallows.
The Heidi Gabler came out of the water.
She was up and they saw her. So she was playing a very good game and is playing a very good game. But she was doing it without anybody necessarily knowing until now. Because now we know she's smart because we've seen her on the confessionals and we've seen her playing. But now everybody kind of knows. And they know that she's a strong player. And now, if she didn't have much threat management work to do, she does now.
Yeah, it's interesting because she thought she could have that Puerto Rican connection potentially with Yam Yam. That's now broken because Yam Yam was the person that she targeted. Carolyn was shown quite a few times on our screens not being very happy and upset about the fact that Yam Yam was being targeted. Lauren's upset. Yeah. So and outside of Lauren being upset, it's like I really feel almost Heidi. Danny's got the idol. So who's the next person you're targeting? You're targeting the person's right-hand person if you're going to split the votes. And
Heidi also was like, maybe I should just kind of let Matt go because I really like Yam Yam. Well, that's kind of down the drain now too.
Because it backfired. I mean, one thing that's important in Survivor is when you pull that trigger, you need to hit your mark. Yep. You need to hit your mark. And I awkwardly missed once. I only missed once the whole show, and it was right when I won my individual immunity. I went and did some fishing because I was just going to, I thought, I'm like, okay, I can step back. And I had talked with James. I was much closer with James than was shown on the show too. But, and James and Ryan, and they were like, look, the votes are going to kind of go down and we're going to have you, Gabler. We want you to, we want you voting. The group I was with at the time was like, you're going to vote. We're going to vote for Ryan. But that changed at some point, but they didn't need to tell me because they didn't trust me yet. That they didn't, because I was at the time I was kind of a free agent at that point. I was perceived as a ship looking for safe harbor post merge after the Ellie vote, and it was a test to see if I was going to vote the way I said I was going to vote. And Ryan was in on it, which was my saving grace because Ryan knew that the word had come down from me because when I voted wrongly and Dwight went home, I didn't give up I didn't divulge to my other allies that I was, because I could have flipped over and voted for, a different way and given up the fact that I can't be trusted. So what I did partly on purpose and partly with some luck is that, I voted the way I said I was going to be voting. And James and Carla, that's when James and Carla started to trust me, was that vote. And Ryan knew that Gabler was going to be, they knew because I talked to those guys and they had talked to them that I was going to be voting that way. So the first person to meet me back at camp after that vote went down and I had written Ryan's name down once was Ryan. And I thought he's a giant man. He's got a heart of gold. He's the nicest person in the world, but he's a giant. I was like, oh my God, he's got to be so pissed. And, and he was like, Gabler, it's cool. I knew that you were going to vote for me, and that's how we knew we could trust you. And I was like, wow, okay, that's cool. And then, so I knew the next time I wrote the big man's name down, he had to go. It had to be that time. Because if you write somebody's name down, look at Brandon. Look at Brandon. He still carries the grudge with Yam Yam. And it's hard not to. Like if Chris and I vote for Jake and Jake, you survive and you're like, hey, I don't know if I can trust these guys. It's just how it is. And
I'm already mad. And this is a hypothetical.
Yeah. I know, you don't even like it as a hypothetical. Yeah. And check out so now Heidi, she shot at Yam Yam, missed. She took a vote from somebody else and she got up in front of everyone and showed how strategic and smart she is. So for her, that's a tough. Her threat level went from probably a 1 out of 10 to a good 9. I think she's a good 9 because she's got people that want to probably that may seek to come after her with a vendetta.
Yeah. Wow. Listen, Mike, it's getting up to an hour. We told you an hour before you can jump off. I know you've got other plans.
I can go 10 more. Let's go 10 more minutes. 10 more minutes.
Okay, because I did want to ask you this question badly, but I want to be respectful of your time. Who do you think currently is playing the best game out there from what you've seen? Who do you have your eyes on towards the end game here that you think will make a deep run, potentially win this thing?
I think I'd say my top 3 right now are going to be Franny, Lauren, and Carson.
Wow.
My wild card picks are Carolyn, Yam. I think he's gonna rebound.
Big edit around him at the moment. We're really being told his story, the struggles he's gone through in the game, being on the outside all the time. Like, there's a narrative there that I'm seeing, and I'm like, why? Like, I know Jeff doesn't believe in a winner's edit, and definitely there has been times I think where people have been confused. Jake and I called your win, by the way. We saw it coming. We about 2 episodes after the merge, we were like, "There's a flip on his
there.
merge."
There's something there. Yeah.
Pre-merge, we were like, "Oh, you're the." Pre-merge, we were like, "Oh, he's the coach Wade. He's the big character, for the season." And then after the merge, we're like, the merge is telling us take Gabler a bit more serious, like after that with the edit. And we caught on to that. But I was bamboozled with a few winners, definitely in recent seasons. Didn't see the Erica win, and that's no disrespect to Erica. She can't handle what the show shows and what they don't show, which is why 90-minute episodes are going to be so amazing. But Yam Yam, I'm similar on the Yam Yam thing. There's something there. Carson definitely.
He's like a cockroach, man. He keeps narrowly surviving.
Yeah.
These, like, especially like with Matthew getting medevac, like there was a chance he was going to get.
But I didn't see it yet.
Matthew looked good. Matthew looked really good in the game until he hurt himself. That's right.
I know. Yeah,
we need Matthew back 100%. I was going to say with Yam Yam, the only thing for me at the moment is I can't see the path yet. Because with you, I did see the connections that you were building and the people
I don't see it yet either.
I don't see it yet
either.
But people have said, people have said like, oh, I really like Yam Yam. Like even freaking Matt was like, who was like on the other side, was talking about like, maybe I'd want to work with him. I'm like, dude, no, that's your only chance to even survive. Right now. So he's got some sort of like Puerto Rican spell that he casts on.
He's charismatic. He's a barber, right? Like I love my barbers.
Right.
I always have good chats with barbers. So he's social.
There's something about him. He's very, he's got a magic to him, and he's a cool guy. I mean, he'd be a fun guy to be in camp with, and I bet he is, but, I would have said Danny a week ago, but I think that Danny, if it wasn't for the stuff last night, I think Danny could have gotten blindsided badly.
Definitely.
Because the way I think, that kind of odd interaction at that reward with Carolyn, the third wheel, and with Brandon, people are knowing now that they're talking, because when you bring the tribes together, there's all the talking, and the fact that you got an idol. Because I remember the exact same thing with Carla, because when we all came together, we heard the story about the beads, and Carla was collecting beads. Carla denied it 100%. But it was too fishy, and we were not sure until Carla kind of double crossed Cassidy, and Cassidy's like 100%, she's got it, and then we knew we had to flush that from her. And I remember, I was with Cody, and Cody and I were close as well on the island, and we had our own little code word as well. Like, if things are going, I remember talking to him before that tribal council, that fateful tribal council, and saying,
"Was it living?"
It wasn't. I go, hey, bro, you're playing your idol tonight? And he's like, yeah, bro, 100%. I go, hogs get fat, pigs get slaughtered. And I looked at him, and he goes, hogs get fat, pigs get slaughtered. And I'm like, okay. But then in the meantime, I think he got, Carla, and we were acting. So it was, Jesse's the mastermind of this thing, but me, Owen, and Cass had to act. We had to, Cass was she won the immunity. So it was me, Owen, and Jesse, and we had to put on our Hollywood acting ability to the highest. We were like, woe is us. It's clearly not Carla. It's clearly not clearly not Cody. It can't be Cassidy. She's got the necklace. So it's either going to be me, Jesse, or Owen. It's only the three of us. And at that tribal council, we made him feel too safe, and he decided to not play it. And then when Jesse brilliantly played it, it flushed Carla's idol, and then it was the underdog alliance, which was me, Cassidy, and Owen to the end.
Yeah, no, it was such a great move. The only sad thing for me personally in seeing you win, and obviously I'm happy you won because you got to do some amazing things with that money as well, which I respect that a lot. Was the fact that Tom McPherson here saying Ali Gabler on the next returnee season. I felt like you were going to be a lock, as a character, but when you are that big character and you win, almost like a Fabio won so many years ago. If had Fabio, I think would have been on 2 or 3 seasons if he didn't win. I sometimes wonder if they go back to winners all that often and ask them to come back. But if they did come to you, Gabler, and they said, we want you on a returnee season in the future, are you open for business? Would you go back out to the island?
100%. I'm ready to go, man. I want to be the oldest winner on Survivor. I may even want to win if I could get on an international one and check it out. I love Survivor, man. I'm in great shape. Life is short. Life is now, and you got to live it. So I'm down for whatever. If opportunities come my way, you betcha. You wouldn't have to poke me. I always say it's better to tame a tiger than poke a panda. This tiger's ready to roar.
Oh, that's amazing. It's so good to hear that you're willing to go back out there and play the game again, because I think you would add a very interesting dynamic. Like the new era of Survivor. One thing I will give it credit for. The casting has been phenomenal. There's been some great big characters in season 41, 42, 43, now heading into 44. So there's definitely nothing there. It's the amount of twists that we're getting in the game right now. Like you said, pump the brakes on it. Maybe do 2 new things a season instead of 10. Let's
right.
Yeah, I think a great twist is one where the casual viewer, like sometimes myself and Jake come here and we scratch our head and we're like with notepads writing things down.
And you're the experts.
Yeah, right. But there's average. I wouldn't call us experts yet until we play.
I'm okay with that label. I'm okay with that label. Thank you, Gabler.
Yeah, Jake's like,
yeah, I'll take it.
Jake doesn't want to go out there and prove that he's the expert. No, but listen, I think the casual viewer needs to look at it and be able to follow what's going on without having to sit down and write things down.
They needed to add the thing on the Chiron to even like.
I know.
It's like we shouldn't need that, and it's sad. Like you said, Chris, these have been such good casts, such great casting these past 4 seasons. And so it's almost like a little insulting that it's like they don't trust the players to organically make it entertaining. And it's like, I'm like you, Chris, I'm totally cool with like introducing, 1 or 2 new twists, because you got to keep it fresh. You got to keep it fresh, right. But yeah, it's like let the players play. 43, 42, 41 would have been just as good, if not better, if there would have been less twists.
I'm hearing themes may come back as well, Gabler.
I would love themes. I would, they're always fun, right? Like I loved heroes versus villains. It was fun. It was cheeky. It was great, and I loved how sometimes the villains would switch tribes to the heroes and vice versa, and they would change their alter egos to be one or the other. And I mean, I don't know. It's just fun. Have people having fun with the game we love, and themes are cool. I would like to see a little bit more behind the scenes, because there's cool stuff going on there. And the people that they're casting are really interesting people. And, I'd like to get to see a little bit more of them too. And I know all the fans would too.
Yeah. Jay here says in the live, exactly, Chris, because the casuals make up the bulk of the video viewing audience. So they need to simplify the game to make sure the casuals understand and keep the show afloat. Andrew Lee's asking, will there be a jury removal on the season? I'm not too sure. I haven't done the numbers on that yet. I don't like jury removal. I've always said, Gabler, what I think they should do. Obviously, I'm a big fan of the Nullifier. That's why the channel's called the Nullified Take as well. I think they need to make a jury nullifier. So the jury member still gets to go throughout the whole experience because they earned it. They go to the final tribal council. You, as the person in the final tribal council, get to talk to them, get a feel for who you think is on your side and who isn't, and then get all of them to vote. And then last shock of the season, whoever won the nullifier gets to go up there and nullify a jury vote. I think that's how you do it.
I love that. That is way better than what happened. I don't want to spoil it or anything, but what happened on the Australian one where a really important player didn't get to participate in that end part. And I think I would like to see that because I'm a fan of the show and I want to see everybody. I'm invested in these characters and what they're doing in the stories. And I think, Chris, to have that twist gives you the best of both worlds. That's a good way to do it. Agreed.
And it can give you credit that, even if you're a runner-up, you may not even win in the end, but maybe you're a Cassidy or somebody, but you saw, this person was going to vote for me. So you have one last great move that fans can remember you by because you at least nullified a vote for Gabler, for instance. So you get that last bit of read that you can show the audience that you had a good read on the jury, On a last note, you mentioned Australian Survivor a few times now. Do you think that there is an appetite out there for an Australia versus US season or an Australia versus US and South African season, a little bit of a worlds collide type of season in the future?
I'll just say as a fan, I'd love to see it because I think that you mentioned some of the most rabid Survivor fans in the world, and it's almost like a World Cup, right? Or a rugby league, whatever it's like you get that together and you get because how much pride is along the line for that, and
so much.
How
who turn on their country, like for instance, I had a chat with, you haven't met this person yet because you haven't seen his season, but my favorite Australian Survivor player of all time is called Luke Toki. He's the king of the jungle. He's a very, very fun character. You're going to love his seasons when you watch it. Kind of reminds me sometimes of almost like a Tony Vlachos, but with an even more with that type of player, but also I don't know how to sort of put it. He's got a very jokey side to him.
He kind of reminds me of Cody a little bit.
Yeah, he's like a less serious. Yeah. He's kind of like Tony Vlachos, but he's like a little bit less serious about it. Like he jokes around a lot and stuff. But he's a really fun character. And I spoke to him on the podcast probably about 6-7 months ago, and I spoke about this. And he said, he's called the People's Champion in Australia because he's Australia's favorite player, almost like Rupert in some ways as well. And he said, what would happen if I was to play in a crossover season and I betray my Australian mates? Would I still be the Australian champion? Would people in Australia still love me after that? And I said, well, that would be intriguing to find out if you were ever to go and be a turncoat and work with the US
battlers. And, as long as he was a battler and he got through it and he, if he did well, I'm sure everybody would love him. And I guarantee you, I haven't seen the guy, but if he's as good as all that, he will make fans and he will have a great time as he goes.
Snuffed from YouTube as well. It's also got a channel saying Gabler and Shawnee Alliance, please, in the future if you're out there.
Let's do it. That's great. Yeah, she's awesome. She was so funny. She was another funny. And she was a strong player. I was so impressed with so many people from the Australian season.
Love Shawnee.
She was just she was cool. She was cool. Yeah, that was they were all the Spice Girls. I love the Spice Girls. They were
a lot of Australian Survivor talk. But if you haven't watched it yet, I think Gabler's making it's a great advertisement for why you should go and watch it. There's some great seasons out there. So when this season is done, there's no reason now not to watch Survivor. There's so much great Survivor content out there. Gabler, it's been great having you on. Any final thoughts, anything that you would like to let the audience know about? What are you sort of working on? Where can people check you out? Are you doing anything at the moment that people should be following?
If you want to, I'm on Instagram, Gabler Mike on Instagram, and I've got the blue check or whatever that is, so you'll know it's me. I'm covered with mud. I've got the necklace on. It's all cool. I've got some funny stuff up there. In fact, this last weekend, my wife surprised me because we have our 25th anniversary about a month ago. So she said, pack your bag. And we went and stayed at the biggest potato in the world. There's a little hotel where they took a giant potato. It's probably about 30 feet long and 20 feet wide. And they made it into like an Airbnb out in the middle of nowhere in Idaho. So we went out there to the world's biggest potato and we stayed there. And I've got a couple of videos and fun stuff from it. It's on Instagram.
It's an actual potato.
An actual giant potato.
Wow.
We were inside. There's a bed in there, and there's a record player.
Very fitting. It's in Idaho.
Nelson. It was great, man. We had a good time.
What's the insulation like in there? Is it like cozy? Like,
you know what? I'm going to show you guys a quick picture of the potato because you gotta see it to believe it. So this
the weather's turning around over there at the moment. It's starting to go into summer now. In any case, right?
Let's see there. See that big potato back there?
Wow.
Yeah, that's insane.
That's it. So that's the door of the potato, and I'll show you inside the potato. Yeah, this is you can see there's me and the potato. I'm on the bed in there.
Oh
Yeah, it's
my
amazing.
gosh, that's incredible.
You
Wow.
asked for it, man. It's on there.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're doing that. And then I guess the other thing that I'm doing is, as you know, we donated the $1 million prize to veterans charities and veterans in need. And to date, we've given away about $550,000 of that money, and we've got about another $450,000 to go. Because when I knew I'd won, when I got back, I got with some accountants and lawyers, and we put it all together in a direct access fund, a DAF. That way, it can maximize our giving and minimize the taxation on it.
Wow.
And we're helping veterans with traumatic brain injury, with PTS, traumatic PTSD, and also suicide prevention. So we want to make sure that we are doing our best to help out folks out there. And in fact, they don't call it post-traumatic stress disorder, but they call it post-traumatic stress because it's not a disorder if you are severely traumatized to have a problem with it. And I think that getting help for these things, there's an epidemic of suicides with veterans right now. And the 1% protect the 99%. And while I never had the honor of serving, it's my honor to serve those who served us. And that $1 million is going to good work. We're about halfway committed to it right now. And that other half, I post it on Instagram as well every time we make a donation. And we're doing a lot of good things with that money because I've been very blessed and grateful for my life and where I am. And there are heroes and people out there that need that more than us. And for the survivor community and on behalf of Season 43 to donate that money and do some good with that makes me very proud to be in the survivor community. Yes, sir.
Listen, it's the most selfless thing that anyone has ever done on a show that is about being selfish to get to the end. So I think, that's something that for me will always stand out. I personally, we spoke about ratings and things like that. I haven't done a survivor winners rating in a very long time because I kind of don't believe in them. A lot of the times I feel like every season's very different and the jury's very different and it's hard to compare one to the other. But at some point I want to do it. But I think if it comes down to it, if I ever was to do it, I would have like 4 or 5 categories, and one of them being entertainment, one of them, being strategy, one of them being, how people do in challenges. But you got to look at all of the different aspects instead of just one thing. But on this thing alone, you stand out to me as a top 10 winner. I don't even know where I put you yet, but I'm so happy and grateful that you were happy to jump on here and talk to us today. I'm so happy about hearing about what you're doing with the money. I know there's probably a lot of people that would be interested in knowing sort of what's happening and you putting it out there and showing where you're putting it. Is there a place that people can follow or go to if they wanted to also donate from their end? Do you have like a public link that you could go to?
So what we did is I talked to my good friend Noelle,
Yep.
who's the girl with the one leg on the show,
Yes.
on my season, because she has her own foundation that you can donate to. It's called Born to Run. And I was talking to her when I was trying to figure out, do we create a foundation or do we create a fund? So we created a foundation. It was something that you can donate to, and where a fund is just like a bank account that you give money to foundations. And so we created the Pass the Torch fund. You cannot donate to it because it's a piggy bank now it has $450,000 left in it. And I will make that zero because by law, once money goes into there, I can't even buy a cup of coffee with it because that's why I don't have to pay taxes. There's no big tax sting on it, like if I kept the money myself. So we're able to maximize the giving to maximize the impact on people who need it and our heroes who need it. And talking to Noelle and learning about her foundation, well, one, I realized I needed to probably do a fund because, I have a full-time job. I work at the hospital. And the other part was, after talking to Noelle, we, of course, had to donate to her as well because I made one of the donations to her and her foundation because she makes sure that children who do not have the financial means to get bioprosthetic legs can do so. And she's an angel.
Awesome.
She's a leader. She's a hero. And that was an easy decision. But
can you email me the link to that fund afterwards so I can put it in the description of this video as well? And wherever I post it on audio platforms afterwards, I'll make sure to put it in the description as well.
Yes, sir. I will do that.
Yep. Thank you so much. Gabler, it's been so great talking to you. I know we've gone way over what you gave us, and I'm so appreciative of it. Hopefully we get to talk to you in the future again.
Love that. Thank you so much, Jake. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in tonight. Love you guys, and Survivor up.
Yeah,
You're
that's
a
it.
legend, dude.
Thanks.
You're a
Talk to you
legend.
later. Bye.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you very much. Bye-bye.
See ya.
All right, there we have it.
Man.
Gabler. What an amazing person. I mean, I can't imagine playing the game, putting yourself through all that grueling pressure. You know, I mean, he's doing it for a good cause, but I think it's a lot harder than what people realize, Jake, to win $1 million and just give it away to charity.
Yeah, it kind of makes you think twice about, like, I would never do that personally. Like, I just couldn't, like that money.
Everybody's in a different, and this is not to shame people, because everybody's in a different position. Like he said, he's been fortunate in life to be able to,
that's true,
get himself in a position where he can do that. And I think there's some people out there that maybe don't like the fact that he did it, because they feel like if they were there, they couldn't do it. You know what I mean? But it's not, I don't think he's doing it to shame people who couldn't. Like he said, he is in a position where he can do it.
For sure. I mean, it's great what he's doing. And I love that he's also involving Noelle and her foundation in it as well. That's really great, really cool to see.
Also, just talking to Gabler just now, I don't know if everybody in the live agrees with this, but you can tell why the guy won. He is such a charismatic guy.
Awesome,
his reads on the game is insane.
I'd never want to vote him out. I just want to keep talking to him. He's awesome.
And I could hardly go back to you, because normally what we do for those,
I know, and I was like, I'm totally fine with this. Like, I totally get why you're just letting him just keep on going, because he's just so entertaining and so charismatic. He's great.
Yeah. Before Danny Cap, thank you so much for being here. We'll talk to you a bit later on again when we do some of our other lives. We've just got one thing we needed to get into here. Gabler went on a little bit longer than what we thought, but we just need to talk about the points and the draft, and then we're pretty much done. And then myself and Kahuna, we will have Kahuna back to talk to me about the power rankings. And we did lose someone this week that were on the edge category, so the bottom of the survivor ranking. We didn't feel like Matt was going to go deep, so we're 1 from 1. Can Kahuna and I call it right 2 weeks in a row? That's going to be the big question here. But before that, let's have a quick look at our draft teams. If you look at it here, this week will lose Matt, so I lose. For the first time in a while, I've not lost anyone. I lose my third person. So I've now got 3 people left. Yam Yam, Franny, and Kane. Kahuna's got 4. He's got Carson, Carolyn, Danny, and Heidi. And then, Jake, you've still got Brandon, Lauren, and Jamie.
If I were Gabler, I'd be very happy with my team, because I've got Lauren.
He was extremely high on Lauren, right?
Yeah.
I was surprised. I haven't seen anybody else be that high on Lauren. I don't know if anybody in the live feels as strongly about her doing well, but I do like Lauren, though. I think she's got some gameplay potential. I'm just worried that we're not seeing her.
And you also are in love with her too.
Did you have to blow up my spot like that, Jack? Did you have to blow up my spot? No, people in the live already know that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I do think she hasn't had much of an edit, and I'm a bit worried about that. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see who we had on the edge. We might look at the power rankings later on. I'll show you off air, because I want to spoil people on that here, because myself and Kerner need to talk about that later on. But going into this week, points wise, I'm still at the bottom. I've been at the bottom for quite a while, kind of like Yam Yam, my team captain. We've been lurking at the bottom this whole game, and I'm sitting at 181. In second place, you've been on second place for quite a while now. You remain in second place at 197. And then Team Kahuna, just absolutely killing it. The Kahuna train sitting on 231.5 points. So a bit of a distance there. He still has the numbers on us at this point. And he's got Carson and Carolyn in his team, Jake.
Man.
How did he do that?
Listen, personally, my top 3 is probably Yam Yam, Carson, Carolyn, no specific order, just those 3. And then probably Franny's up there as well. So I have none of those people. I have none of them. I'm not like super low on Lauren personally, but I'm not nearly as high on her as Gabler for sure. So I guess she's my like dark horse at the moment, but
I think so. Out of the three of them, I really do. Jay says here, what do you think of Lauren's edit? Is she getting under the radar Erica winner edit? Is she going with the next two episodes? She could easily still be an Erica.
I just don't know, man. Like, it's hard to tell, especially with the editing in the new era. I feel like it's getting harder and harder to tell who's going to win. And I feel like Erica like kind of had her hourglass episode, right at the merge, and that kind of like was her coming out. So for Lauren, I hope that happens soon, or else, I'm going to get a bit worried.
Yeah, let's have a look at the points here quickly. Who's leading at the moment? And in the lead is Brandon at 65 points.
Wow.
He's had 23 confessionals.
I guess because he won immunity.
He won immunity this week. Yeah. He's had a successful advantage play. So he's actually done a lot right. Like, Brandon is kind of like under the radar, low key, playing a very good game. But I think it comes down to what Gabler said earlier, threat level. I just think his threat level is too big to continue through the game without getting sniped.
And Carolyn, she ain't gonna forget that little feast they had. Her and Danny.
No, we saw
she's
that.
She's already taken down Josh. She's going after Danny and Brandon next, I'll bet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got Franny in second place with 50 points. She really shot up because she had that individual immunity win. She's had a few challenge wins before coming into the merge, and then 17 confessionals in total. Third place overall so far for the teams is going to be Carolyn, 46. And Carolyn's got that solely based on confessionals. They've only had one challenge win up until this point. So in the pre-merge part of the game. So really doing it the hard way at this moment. Actually, her challenge win might have been last week, actually, when they had the two teams.
She also found an advantage. She also found the idol.
Yeah, so that's where we're sitting points-wise. Let me get the points up there for everybody to see. And see if I can just maximize this slightly. Those are the three teams there. I still think that it's anyone's game at this stage, though, Jake. I think any of us could still pull a rabbit out of a hat and win this, even though Kahuna's got the lead now. We're about halfway into the season. Quite a lot of people still need to get voted out. And so far, I don't know if you and the audience believe this as well, but I think, Jake, that it's been fun doing the three teams draft. Like, it's a lot more fun than just the two teams. I feel like early in the season, you could kind of see who's going to win. But in this, I feel like we're going to, I'm mixing it up. But you see, unlike Jeff, I'm only throwing one twist in at a time.
You're playing it the right way. I've really been enjoying it. It was really fun to have Kahuna on in the draft podcast we did. It's been really fun. I have like a vested interest in some of the players that, maybe aren't necessarily my favorite, but I want them to do well because I want to win just some random draft online. I feel like I was looking at the margins. I feel like either you or I could catch up.
This is like 50 points for the winner, 25 points for the runner-up, if I remember correctly, and then there's a bunch of 25-point bonus categories. Right?
And you've got Yam Yam, who is currently leading in confessionals, and who I think could totally win. So that could boost you like 100 points or something.
Yeah, so it's gonna be exciting until the end.
Right.
Before Danny Cab here says, I'm glad Matt made it to the jury. If Franny gets voted out, they can still have Ponderosa together. Well, I think
he can vote for her to win.
Matt's now dateable because at least he made it to the jury, right?
And they're going strong after the game.
That's amazing.
I know. It was definitely poetry, ironic poetry that she technically was the reason why he was voted out, because she took down 4 people from the other team. And he was kind of got robbed with the way it shook out.
And she didn't even bring his bag for him. I mean, was she not allowed to?
I'm not sure, but I mean, she probably didn't know. She probably just figured, it's just unfortunate, but
it's a series of unfortunate events.
Yes, for sure. I really liked Matt though, and I'm also glad he's on the jury because I feel like he's gonna give some interesting input.
I was like, man, do I sound like Matt every week when he said that Survivor is a game of luck now? because he was saying it to
Yeah.
Brandon, and him and Brandon were having a bit of a conversation about that.
Mhm.
But I do think that Matt plays maybe 5 or 8 seasons ago, and he has a better game because there is less unpredictability. But he was also fooled quite a few times in the game, so I don't know.
But I mean, come on, you can't blame the guy for opening an idol that was made by production and being like, "This is a real idol. I believe this is real." Like, all of us would have also believed it. And again, like we were saying with Gabler, he was quick to catch on. Like, oh shoot, maybe this is a fake.
Plus, he was like, he lost 2 votes because of production as well. Like, maybe the most screwed player in the game.
You took a risk. I mean, he was gonna lose one.
In any
no
case.
matter what, and then you just got unlucky. He took a risk, and it didn't end up.
But that would tempt you
hurting
if
him
you're
too
like,
much.
okay, I've already lost a vote. I'm already in pain. I might as well get a reward from it.
Right,
It's
right.
I feel like it's not fair on him almost in
Yeah.
a way. So, man, like the first vote where he's like, I finally get to play Survivor, and then he gets voted out. It actually does hurt me. So I agree with Jay here saying hashtag justice for Matt.
I know. I was so wrong about him coming into the season, and I was glad to be proven wrong. He was not like
those are always the
socially
ones
awkward.
that stand out for me. Those are always the ones where I misjudged them in the beginning. Before Danny Cap is saying, good point, Jake. He can rally the jury to vote for her. I think she was thinking of how he was in jeopardy.
He's the first juror. The first juror matters a lot with the kind of setting the tone.
Mayor of Ponderosa.
Mayor of Ponderosa, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it here for this week, everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed having Mike Gabler on the show as much as we did. I had a lot of fun talking to him. He's a great personality, so much energy, so much great insights as well.
I know.
And now that I know that he's a fan of Australian Survivor, watch out. We might get him on. A few of the people that we've spoken to this season, they watch Australian Survivor as well. We might get some US players on the podcast at some stage to talk about that as well. But if you are still around, thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing. That is really the best way to show support to the channel. Also, consider checking out the Nullified Take channel on Instagram. I never really promoted that much, but a lot of the times when I reach out to players, I reach out to them via Instagram. So the more people that follow me on Instagram, that's the first thing they see is, okay, this person's got 300 followers or 200 followers versus the fact that we're close to 2,000 on YouTube. I might not always get through to people that I want to get onto the channel. So help us gain some credibility so we can get more great guests onto the channel as well. Consider liking and commenting below. That all does help with the YouTube algorithm. But for now, grab your torches, head back to camp. We'll catch you guys next time. Bye.